Well, welcome everyone. Glad to see you. Glad to see you again. So precious that we have this time together. And it's so beautiful that we can have these gatherings because we can just address the emotions and the issues and the themes that are up for everyone. So I really enjoy our format where we put out a poll. Kenneth puts out a poll and shares it around, and then you vote. And it's kind of interesting to me to look at the themes as they come out, because we just finished our full transparency weekend online retreat, and then that also we dealt a lot with no private thoughts and no people pleasing. And then when we put the polls out this week, the results for the top two positions came in the same for both of them. For the English poll and the Spanish poll, letting go of specialness came in number one on both polls, and unworthiness came in number two on both polls. So right after our full transparency weekend, then there we are. Letting go of specialness and unworthiness. But I was also noticing the other runners-up. It's like the universe page. We have other runners-up, and we also had fear of love, intimacy was on the poll, and fear of commitment and sacrifice, and then healing past associations. And that really caught my attention, because when I looked at all five, then I did pray for a movie that would really deal with all five themes, as well as, of course, the top two, letting go of specialness and unworthiness. So, I can't think of a better way to spend the evening than with a country western story and country western music. These country stories are fantastic for undoing the sense of unworthiness and undoing specialness. And actually, if I roll it back a little bit, about the setup for this movie is that toward the back of the book, in the self versus self-concept section of A Course in Miracles, Jesus tells us that this is the purpose of the world, the way the ego set it up. Everyone comes without a self and then makes one up as they go along. So that's like a key for the themes we're going to be looking at. Everyone comes to this world without a self and then makes one as they go along. And he goes on to say that you will make many concepts of the self as learning goes along. Since this is the purpose for which the world was made in hate, the world was made as a hiding place that would be so complex and so full of images and so full of false self-concepts or idols that the mind would be lost. And in that sense, it's a defense against the remembrance of the truth. So that's an important context to understand, that even as you go through this forgiveness process and the process of spiritual awakening, the Holy Spirit will exchange self-concepts for other self-concepts in the mind that they're closer approximations to forgiveness. So the Holy Spirit's use of these exchanging self-concepts is to bring you into your mind deeper and deeper and deeper towards the only helpful concept in the mind. Out of all the trillions and trillions of self-concepts that the ego made, there is one self-concept that's helpful, and that is forgiveness. So there's only one out of the trillions. There's a needle in the haystack. There's a shining glimmering, sparkly needle that's buried under all this haystacks. Since we're in country mode tonight, I can talk about haystacks. I can talk about needle and haystack. So underneath this huge haystack, there's a shining needle. And actually, there is a workbook lesson where Jesus says, salvation is among the thoughts in your mind. Find it. I remember the first time I read that, and I was like, okay, find it. He's saying, find the needle. That's basically what this is all about. Find the needle in the haystack. And, of course, it's such a huge haystack, it's such a tiny needle that it's good that we have the Holy Spirit to direct us very specifically, because even if you get down, way down to the bottom of the haystack, you're still in the dark, and it's still very difficult to discern where that needle is. But the Holy Spirit knows exactly where it is, so He takes us right to the needle. Now, what Jesus tells us is that guilt doesn't really have anything to do with what's happening on the projected screen of the world, even though it sure seems that way to the human being. If you ask most human beings to list the 10 triggers or the 10 sources of guilt that they've had in their entire lifetime, you would get various memories, scenarios, people, events, circumstances, all of these things on the projected screen. And Jesus is saying the guilt is not coming from anything that you think you've done, that you think you shouldn't have done, or anything that you didn't do that you think you should have done. It's not coming from any behavior, it's not coming from any action, and it doesn't matter if you use even the most extreme cases, like Nazi Germany, seemingly the extermination of millions of Jewish people in concentration camps, or you pick somebody like a mass murderer who ends up caught and in jail, and they're in prison, and for most people they would say, well, they probably have a lot of guilt for killing those people and burying and hiding the bodies. That seems a pretty logical story for guilt. But Jesus is telling us in the Course, you have an ontological guilt from believing you broke away from your divine source. You have an ontological guilt, a shame, a dark feeling of guilt and fear, which the Course even uses the word sin. And basically, sin is the belief in separation from Source, or separation from God. And that's where the guilt is generated. So it's not a specific guilt, it's an ontological guilt. It's a guilt that goes, it's a primeval guilt, a primordial guilt. It goes way back just to the belief in separation from God. And then the ego makes up the world as the hiding place to hide from this shame, to hide from God, because of the fear of punishment that the ego generates from this ontological guilt. And then with the projection of the world, the mind comes without a self and then makes one as it goes along. You can think of a little baby learning to crawl, and then learning to walk, becoming a toddler. And then you can think of the first words that are spoken, the first words that are learned. And there are many more words to come that will be learned. There are many more concepts that will be learned. There are many more memories that will be learned and experienced. So everyone comes without a self and makes one as they go along. So for this movie tonight, what we're going to be looking at is that there's going to seem to be some guilt on the surface of consciousness, and it's definitely going to seem to be around interpersonal relationships, and it's definitely going to seem to be about behaviors and actions, which is perfect. After our full transparency weekend, we had a lot of great ideas, and if any of you were able to be there or listen to the speaker or to the audio, you know that we really went into these metaphysics, and there was a lot of emotions expressed, and lots of darkness came up, and there was lots of clearing. But the ego has invented this world and all the roles, as Jesus calls them, ego ideals. You feel you're guilty in this world as a human being because you don't live up to the ego ideals that have been set for your identity. For example, if you have the identity of a mom, how good is a good enough mom? How good is good enough? You see how the ego ideal is set up, whether it's mother, father, sister, brother. It can be a role of a citizen. It can be a role in employment, career. It could be a teacher of God role. You might even have a pretty strong teacher of God or teacher of the course role or a student of the course role. Those are just roles too. All the roles were made by the ego. And the Holy Spirit can use what the ego made and does use them in letting go of the roles. So the Holy Spirit uses time to teach the mind that there is no such thing as time. The Holy Spirit uses the roles to teach the mind that the only helpful role is one of forgiveness. It's like a blanket of peace that spreads across the whole cosmos, because it doesn't have any judgment with it. It doesn't have an opinion. It doesn't have a preference. It's just this beautiful, expansive, dreamer of the dream concept, and it's glorious. It's the happy dream. It's the real world that Jesus talks about. But these ego ideals are heavily ingrained, and human beings seem to decide as they move through time and space, they take on certain roles. Maybe the role of a husband or a wife, the role of a son or a daughter, or a mother or a father. It could be any role. But these roles are, again, these are ego ideals, because the ego has set the mind up to be identified with these ideals, and then when circumstances don't go the way that the ego judges should fulfill the role, the ideal, then there's guilt. Jesus tells us, don't you realize that whenever you get angry, it's just because someone has not fulfilled the role that you set for him or her. So therefore, you can set a role for the person, the body that you believe is yourself, and for any of the other bodies. But there's always an expectation tied in with identifying with these persons and these roles and these ego ideals, because they will not always act out the ideal as it's defined in the mind. So if you have somebody who seems to break a promise, break a rule, break a role, let down somebody, it's always occurring in the mind that has chosen to hold on to these ideals. And then when these ideals seem to be broken, then that's when the upset comes into awareness. The guilt, though, is coming from way down in the subconscious mind. It's coming from the dream that you dream in secret. It's coming from the first tier of the two-tier self-concept that I talk about. The one that's below, the one that Jesus says is draped with sin. That's where the guilt is. You can find it. You could just follow those words. Draped with sin. Yeah, that seems like a place I could find the guilt. The place of the self-concept that's draped with sin, that is so dark, so horrific, that a top tier had to be made so that you could look away, so you wouldn't have to look down on that one. It's not something you actually like to go eye-gazing with, draped with sin. No, thank you. But the surface, top of the self-concept is the personality self and the projected world that surrounds the personality self. And Jesus says this face of innocence, he calls it, sometimes is wet with tears at the injustices of the world. But the world doesn't have any injustices. I know that's not a popular thing right now because social justice is like a key. Everyone's like, yeah, social justice. I think I did a video on that. I think it was titled something like, "There's no such thing as social justice." I always have to go back just to see the comments, read some of the comments on that, even in this day and age. It's quite interesting. But the face of innocence is sometimes wet with tears, Jesus says, at the injustices of the world. But that's a projection. Again, the only injustice is the belief that you're not the Christ. The only injustice is the belief that you're something that you're not. The only injustice is the belief that you can create yourself. You can make yourself any way you want to be, and then come without a self and make one as you go along. That's the exciting part to the ego. It's like, yeah, you don't really know who you are. That's okay. We'll do lots of makeovers. We'll do lots of inventions and reinventions, and it's exciting. You know, the ego says variety is the spice of life. You can try on as many masks as you want, and you can do it as long as you want. You can just do it for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and we'll just have some amnesia in between, so it really spices it up, so it seems like it's brand new each time. And with the amnesia, then you'll think, ooh, it's exciting, it's new. I get an adventure of making a self. I can make it any way I want to be. And then the ego says, and let's try it again, and try it again. But the ego never catches on that the whole idea of inventing and reinventing yourself and making these images and identifying with these false ego ideals and images is all part of a defense against waking up, knowing yourself as who you are. It's a defense against the truth. It's a beautiful part in the Course, in the text, where Jesus says, "Seek not outside yourself, for it will fail, and you will weep each time an idol falls." So it's a setup from the beginning. The ego set this world up to fail. You will fail to find your divine self in this world of images, because the divine self is spirit, and this world of images is not spirit. It's projected, it's full of images, it's temporary. It has nothing to do with spirit, eternity, love, eternal happiness. You know, they're completely unlike. Perception, was made as a veil that would cover over the truth. Or as Morpheus tells Neo, the world was made to cover your eyes and blind you from the truth. So that's helpful as a setup going into this movie, because this movie is kind of it's a classic kind of relationship movie in which there seems to be love, or what the world would define as love, and then there seems to be things that go tragically wrong according to the judgment of what the ideal story should be. And then it's a matter of prayer and a matter of calling on the Spirit for healing. And what I like about this movie is the main character will have to walk through like layers and layers of past associations. He'll have to face the guilt that's really in the mind, but it will seem to play out in terms of the looks and stares and glances of the people that are around him. It will also bring back memories, because he starts to remember his relationship with his mother, who has passed away, and you can start to see all of these themes that I've mentioned all of them are going to come up in this movie. It just touches ding, 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 ding across the board on all of them. And it takes a lot of faith to go through the healing process. A lot of times people, when they think of healing, they don't really know fully what the context is, but you have to allow the unconscious mind and the darkness to come up. For some, it seems to be more of an introspection and a more of a deep dive and a searching out in the mind. Some people have such a strong prayer for healing that it comes up pretty strong, pretty intense, and sometimes it can come quite frequently, even if the mind is such a strong prayer for healing, then that unconscious darkness will arise up into awareness, and it can be extremely intense. But of course, it's never more intense than you can handle. Although some would tell me that's not true. This Holy Spirit, that Holy Spirit, he has got me with. He's hit me pretty strong with some emotions, but it's never more than you can handle. It just helps to have the whole context. So we're ready to really dive into the movie. Basically, the main character of the movie is Liam, and his girlfriend and fiance is Josie, and he's going to go in this with a lot of unconscious guilt, like everyone has had in their life, and then the circumstances that will play out in his earth life will bring up huge amounts of guilt, and also a huge opportunity for healing, to let it go. And that's really what this movie's about. It's about allowing the guilt up and then letting it go. And everyone who studies the Course, these kind of movies are great complementary resources to go along with the Course, because Jesus says that you can learn from the experiences of others. In other words, that's why we watch the movies. It's part of our speed up in our mind. He comes right out and says, you can learn from the experience of others. And then he even says, he tacks on, and you can learn from mine. So that's why when we get little glimpses of the parables of Jesus through the New Testament, or the Urantia book, or the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ, and different channeled writings, that when we get those glimpses even from the life of Jesus, he's telling us, you can learn from what I seem to go through, and it will save time. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to go through this all on your own. You can learn from the experiences of others, and you can learn from mine, he says. So tonight, we are going to really be learning from the relationship experiences of Liam and Josie. And then there's another character that will come, and I don't want to give the movie away for those who haven't seen it, but there's going to be plenty of helpful resources for this healing. It's actually quite an amazing movie. So sit back. If you've got a cowboy hat in your closet, I see Christina's got her usual cap on there to stay nice and warm. But if any of you have your cowboy hat in the closet, you want to watch it. This has got some really good country music in it, nice soundtrack, and on top of that, a really beautiful story for helping us free our mind of this deep guilt. So enjoy, and I'll be back in the middle of the movie. All right. Well, this is a good opening for us, because we talked about coming without a self and making one as you go along. So he left his fiancée at the altar. he went on to a very famous country music career. And the part in the Course this is reminding me of is where Jesus says, you cannot judge your advances from your retreats. When you fall asleep, when you're asleep and dreaming this world, you lose all sense of purpose, you lose all sense of direction, and you lose all sense of meaning. The ego will fill in the meaning. That's what lesson number 2 is all about. I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me, but the ego's feeding its own meaning onto the world. It's reading meaning onto the world, and its purpose, of course, is to make up a self. And therefore, what that entails is its own definitions of success. So, money, fame, notoriety, popularity, all these things seem to be very valuable to the world, and they all are inventions of the ego, but they're all designed to keep you from looking within, from facing and releasing the guilt within. So all these things that seem to be very good and successful, as the ego judges it, are actually retreats away from the light in your mind. There's one part in the Course where Jesus says this world is backwards and upside down. He uses those exact words, backwards and upside down. And when I first read that, I thought, wow, that sounds a little bit like Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll's classic book. When Alice goes down the rabbit hole, she sees everything in terms of distorted perceptions. There's all kinds of crazy figures, including the Mad Hatter, and the proportions are completely off when she goes down the rabbit hole. And in one sense, even though the sleeping mind has adapted and adjusted to the images that the ego made, and even though it now calls them familiar, and it now has adapted and adjusted to the lie of the projected world, it seems to have stabilized a little bit, but it doesn't realize that it's stabilized or it's adjusted to nothing. It's adjusted to a lie. So that's why when people even have psychic experiences, mystical experiences, sometimes even people who describe their psychotic experiences talk about all different kinds of crazy things, whether it's a psychotic episode where time seems to be reversed, or whether it's like an LSD experience, or an experience with marijuana or magic mushrooms or something, and everything seems to be distorted. Peyote or ayahuasca, so on and so forth. Its perception seems to be very, very disoriented and very distorted. So, in this movie, not only did Liam not show up for his wedding, but he continued to go on singing on the radio, and now he has the lifestyle of a very famous country music singer, and he's not even used to using credit cards because there's so many people hired to do everything for him, drive him around, buy him clothes, do everything, and the only thing he seems to have left from his past life is he still has his cell phone, which is a good, it's like a good symbol of memory, because he still has this message that Josie left for him, and he pretty much panicked when he thought the cell phone was broken. It's a memory he doesn't want to let go of and is afraid to lose. But that's the way the sleeping mind is with all things in time and space. There's a huge fear of loss, there's huge sense of confusion, of doubt, of self-doubt, and even the fame and the riches and everything that the world can offer, it hasn't really brought him to a sense of feeling connected or home. Even the song that he sang, his last song, opening concert there, was about watching these little things, these shadows, and having these memories of all these little details. And those are details that haunt the mind because the ego just keeps bringing back the memories because it has to emphasize failed ideals. It made up the ideals, including the ideal of being a son or a fiancé, all the ideals of what Liam seemed to be were all part of the ego's plan, and then when you don't show up for your wedding, that's a failed wedding or a failed fiancé, and the ego will use that to bring enormous guilt. There's always much going on much deeper in the mind, but the ego will always use the failed ideals on the surface of the mind to generate as much guilt as it can. The guilt is actually coming from the unconscious mind, but it gets pushed out and projected out onto the characters, and that's where it's experienced for the human beings. They're not in touch with the dream that you dream in secret. They're not in touch with the way inside the mind, but they are in touch with their failings, their seeming failings. And Jesus goes on to say that everyone who comes makes a self-concept for himself and then always counts the good against the bad. In other words, that's what's going on in the mind of the sleeping mind. It's always trying to count the good things because there's a deep fear of punishment, of a sense of having to pay a consequence for this drifting away from Source and drifting away from heaven. And it's just projected out in terms of failed relationships, failed promises, failed commitments, or interpretations of loss. You can tell, I think, both Liam and his father. Liam misses his mother. He just saw the photograph of his mother and him with the guitar and these memories. That's also the sense of loss is coming from the unconscious mind, but it's projected as if there's a feeling of loss or sadness or abandonment when his mother passed away, and that's still all a projection onto the things of form. So you start to get a sense that this is the ego's big trick. It's using the world that it made to keep the mind feeling guilty. Because as long as the mind is guilty, then it can't go back voluntarily to the light. It's too afraid of consequences. It's too afraid of punishment. And a friend of mine, Alan Dalit, I always see his email address I mentioned. He has his signature on the bottom. Seriousness causes reincarnation is his signature on his email. I would say, the reason seriousness causes reincarnation is because guilt causes reincarnation. If you are guiltless, you open up and you go right back to the light. You would be drawn so strong. I mean, if you had the faintest glimmering of this light, of this love, if you had the faintest glimmering of how powerful this light and this love is, you could not resist the call of love. You would move swiftly towards that light. But it's guilt. And of course, most of it's unconscious because the projections onto the body, the projections onto the characters, and the projections onto the scenes and seeming memories and images, that's just a displacement of the guilt. And so that's why the purpose of this world is forgiveness. The healing of the mind, the forgiveness of the ego The release of the ego is the release of the guilt, and that's the whole purpose of the world. The world doesn't really have any other purpose. At times, for many human beings, they go along in their seeming earth life, their parable, and then they have these points of extreme meaninglessness, extreme boredom, or extreme apathy, where they have a sense like they're just wandering in the dust. They're like wandering in the dark. They don't see a purpose for the world, and actually they're going down deeper in their mind, and once you start to withdraw the meaning from the world, Jesus says in the workbook that actually it's very, very uncomfortable and it's very frightening. As disillusioning as these false meanings are, if you start to withdraw the false meanings and you start to withdraw the projections, then the mind goes into a state of terror. Because there's nothing more frightening to a sleeping mind than a meaningless world. Even false meanings, murder, violence, pestilence, all the destructive things of the projected world, even when you start to let go of those things and you come further in, that's when the terror arises, because it's this not knowing that is the most horrific and the most frightening thing. That's also why people have difficulty going deep in meditation, because there's a fear of not knowing that's there. This false self, this I know mind that thinks it knows the world, it is quite an addiction to ignorance. And then when you start to go back in underneath that ignorance, then it's this feeling of terror. Some of you might remember from the workbook lessons, when you make it up to lesson number 13, workbook lesson number 13, is a meaningless world engenders fear. There it is right there. He's coming right out, and he's saying the fear is coming from the sense of meaningless. It can't even be said any clearer. A meaningless world engenders fear. And then, as you read the lesson, you go down through that lesson, the meaningless world engenders fear, and you think you're afraid of a hostile world, of a violent world, of a crazy world, all this. No, it's the meaningless world that engenders fear. And for most who are reading these lessons, that's kind of like, that's interesting. A meaningless world engenders fear. Wow, they didn't teach me that in university, or my mom and dad never told me that during dinner time. Little David, a meaningless world engenders fear. And then he drops his first cause-effect relationship, really the major cause-effect relationship, in the bottom of lesson 13, workbook lesson 13. A meaningless world engenders fear because, here we go, because I think I am in competition with God. Whoa, atomic bomb. Oh, he's only on lesson 13 of 365. He's already dropped the atomic bomb at the bottom of 13 because he's introduced a direct cause-effect relationship. Of all the things that we believe are upsetting us, of all the things that we believe are disturbing us, of all the things that we think are causing us our bad day, or I'm having a tough day because why? My car wouldn't start, or my car door was frozen in the winter, I couldn't get into it, or it's 42 degrees below zero, or whatever. Of all the things you think you have discomfort or upset for, Jesus says your own guilt is not among them. You don't make the connection between the upset and the ontological guilt. But in workbook lesson 13, Jesus is going to make the connection for us. A meaningless world engenders fear because I think I'm in competition with God. I'm in competition with God because you think you made yourself instead of accepting yourself as you were created. Because you think you can come to a world, a totally fictitious and make-believe world, and you can invent yourself. You can come without a self, and you can invent as you go along. So, if we go back to the metaphor in the movie, we've got Liam, who he did not show up for his wedding, but apparently he continued on with his singing career, recording songs, becoming famous on the radio, filling up stadium. You know, it looked like the Superdome in New Orleans, the big Superdome, and he's gone on a pathway of success, and for someone who came without a self, he made a self as he went along. Now his agent is telling him, it's all over the TV. You're running barefoot, through the streets of New Orleans. It's all. Everyone's wondering, where is Liam? Where is missing Liam? Because he's become a famous image. The mind can't ever become famous because there's only one mind, and there's nothing to become famous to. You don't ever hear the Christ mind, oh, I have lots of fans. No, the Christ mind doesn't have any fans because there are no fans in heaven. And the Christ mind is in heaven, where it's just perfect, absolute, abstract oneness. There are no fans. You don't have any followers. Jesus doesn't have likes or thumbs down, thumbs up, thumbs down. There are no fans. But Liam, on the other hand, Liam seems to be successful because if you're a singer, an important measure of your success is your fan base. And Liam's got a big fan base. He's recorded albums. He's sold lots of albums. He has lots of people following him, adoring him. You saw him, the first song he sang there at the Superdome, they were screaming, crowd screaming. He's singing about whiskey and women and all the things. And they're going delirious. Even when he went to the phone shop to get his cell phone fixed, the woman there was just hand over the phone. The manager had to pry it out of her hand because she was awestruck with Liam. So this is a good movie. What was our number one theme? Undoing specialness. Liam has made a success of himself. Even though Jesus says you can't judge your advances from your retreats, it would seem like Liam took a difficult situation with his hometown and jilting his bride-to-be, and then he became successful. But again, these are the things that Jesus says are basically just ego distractions from knowing who you are. Another great section to read is from the Manual for Teachers. What is the real meaning of sacrifice? And in that section, Jesus says, the teacher of God can have no regrets on giving up the pleasures of the world. He basically is saying that fame and fortune and power and money and all these things are all substitutes for your function, which is forgiveness, and also substitutes for your reality, which is the Christ, and truth and love and light. And so all these things have been set up to defend against the remembrance of who you are, of who created you. And there's even, in the Song of Prayer, there's a beautiful little passage where Jesus says, the secret of true prayer is to forget the things you think you need he's basically saying, when you forget the things you think you need, which to the world is crazy, it's like, no. Your professors in university didn't say, I'm going to test you on an exam, and I want you to forget all the things you think you need to pass the exam. Just forget this world, forget this exam, and come with holy open arms to your God. No, they don't say that. They say, study hard, and you better get a good grade, and you better remember all these little things, because you've got to regurgitate them back on the exam if you want to get a passing grade, if you want to get a degree, if you want to get a good job, a good career, nice house, Mercedes-Benz, 2.3 kids, whatever. The dog, the cat, the whole thing. No, if you want to pay for all that, no, Jesus is like, roll it back, roll it back, roll it back, roll it back. The secret of true prayer is to forget the things you think you need, because you're showing your devotion to your Creator by forgetting the things that you think you need. This is why in Buddhism they say, empty your mind. This is why in all the major religions, all the meditation practices, they all say, empty your mind. And the Course is actually no different than all those too. And then he says also, because the things that you think you need and want in this world are set up as jailers to keep you feeling guilty. Oh, now he's even telling us why. Jailers. He's saying, the more you distract away from this inner peace and stillness, you're attempting to set up jailers to keep you guilty. And again, guilt brings about the experience of reincarnation. Even though it's not a reality, it's an experience whereby you keep seeking outside yourself, seeking in the world of images over and over and over, trying to find that eternal love. And it's not there. It can't be found in the images. So, again, we'll get back to our beautiful country western flick here. Nothing like a good old homegrown country story to really drive it home for us, because now Liam is back in his little town here, which they call short. The nickname for the town is Saint. Oh, nice. He goes right back to Saint, and he goes right back to the church, and his dad's the minister, and he's just, what's that other thing we had? Facing healing and facing past associations. I can't think of a better movie offhand for walking back into a hornet's nest of past associations. He was only there for maybe an hour, and he's already got socked in the stomach by one of those past associations that he jilted. So, you can see this is what it seems to be. And you can do this mentally, but for most people, they're not really that in touch with the unconscious mind. So it usually gets played out, it gets acted out, and then you have to deal with everything that you're perceiving and interpreting. But of course, that's why we're watching these movies, to save time, so you can get the lesson without having to act it all out. This is a big time saver here. So here we go. He's now back at home. His dad's having him remember how to wash his coffee cup, and he's been told you can take a bike if and he's already asking for a card to be delivered. He needs a car and he needs his credit cards, but this is the beginning of his healing. He's not even in touch with the hurt that he feels around the loss of his mother. He's not in touch with his fear of intimacy. Obviously he had a really close connection with his mother, and then when she passed away, there's some major abandonment, betrayal, rejection, and loss issues. Major. These are like core issues that go all the way back to the separation in the mind. But until we get in touch with these things, then That's why we're most likely to run away, we're most likely to avoid, we're most likely to distract away, or do something that the world supports, like develop a huge self-concept of become famous and rich. The world's like, well, it wasn't all bad. Well, the world doesn't really understand what's going on, the dynamics in the mind, and how this world, you can run away from these dark emotions, but it doesn't bring a healing. It doesn't release the emotions if you just try to distract away from them. So let's see what happens next here. All right, there's our minister. It's reminded me of lesson 154, I am among the ministers of God. This is where you have to realize that you can tell he's taken on the concept of a minister, but the unconscious mind is where the hurt is. Even those who have a vocation as a minister, who has been preaching at the same church, and we saw him speaking there at the funeral for the man who was hit by a car, and he was talking about the good times and the tough times that we've supported each other, we were there for each other, and basically he opened up the funeral service by saying, I'm trying to come up with the words, but it's hard because I don't really feel I have the words to say. I don't feel I have the adequate words to say. And that is a good symbol where you have a minister who's in the vocation of being a minister, in the vocation of connecting with God, connecting with Jesus, looking for healing, trying to bring hope, trying to bring a sense of wisdom, a sense of encouragement to his congregation, and yet that minister concept is, again, it's way out there on the screen, and as long as you have a deep hurt inside, then that minister self-concept just is part of the face of innocence. And it is wet with tears. You see, it was more than wet with tears. He was just talking to his son Liam, and he was frustrated, he was angry. And at first, Liam comes roaring up on the bike and he's angry. Why didn't you tell me I had a daughter? I did tell you had a daughter. Oh, want me to refresh your memory. So he probably was stoned or something at one of his concerts, like Elton was in Rocket Man or something. And then he wasn't even aware of the things. He couldn't even remember that his father had said those things. But it just shows you how deep this unconscious mind goes, and this unconscious shame, until we get in touch with it, until we can get it up accessible into the mind, and we can release this deep hurt, this deep pain, this deep shame, this deep fear, this deep guilt, then we are basically watching a projected world that is basically playing out these unconscious beliefs. And even though we may tell ourselves, well, that was a nice day, and that was a good thing, and that's a good memory, and I'm grateful for this, and I have some photos of this. That was a wonderful time. I want to preserve those in a scrapbook and remember the good memories. It's a world of duality that's projected there, and everybody counts the good to counteract the bad, hoping that the good column will be more than the bad column, hoping that by the time they reach the end of their earth life that they have more good memories than they have bad memories. And that is just all the ego can offer. The ego says, you better go for what you can get out of this. There's the get word. You better get what you can get from the world, while the getting is good, which is during time and space, because then you're going to die. That's even in the Bible. Eat, drink, and be merry, for one day we shall die. That's not exactly the most encouraging, hopeful passage because of the die part at the end. But that's the destiny of the projected world until you forgive, until you forgive the ego, until you release this belief that in truth never happened, that in reality never happened. So this is a great movie because it's like a training movie. It's like we're getting a training movie at seeing what seems to be a very difficult situation for Liam, with people glaring at him, calling him an idiot. The best greeting I think he's had from anybody so far is his daughter Billy. She's not people pleasing him. She's telling him, "Not my cup of tea." He's not taking it personally, and they seem to have a pretty equal, beautiful connection right there. And it's so beautiful because, that's just such a beautiful symbol of the healing. Here's a daughter that he's never met, and he's got this connection with her, and out of the whole town, I think that's his best connection right away. He got down on his knee to join with her with that receptive welcome from the little girl. He was so happy to see a receptive witness to love in his heart, and there it was with her. So, but this is a good training movie for what you seem to have to walk through. Not that you actually really walk through it, but it's more just like you're witnessing a motion picture of your consciousness. And a lot of that consciousness, it's the domain of the ego, but specifically the unconscious mind, or the unwatched mind. That's why it seems, when people say to me, "Why do bad things happen to good people?" I was actually out on the porch, was that a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was Norma's husband was asking. He worked his way up during this whole lunch to just ask this one question, like he said, "I'm a decent guy." And then I just had some people I met this morning, and I had to kind of go stoop down to their level, meaning they were very harsh or something with him, and he had to he almost like I didn't want to do it, but they brought it out of me. I had to do that to interact with them, and that's the age-old question: why do bad things happen to good people? But it's like you have to go into the mind. You can't stereotype somebody as a good person and then say, why are all these bad things happening to this good person? You've got to go much deeper to get into the mind. And thank goodness we have the Course, because it's such a direct tool for doing that. It's just an amazing tool. So here we go. Now things are starting to heat up a little bit, now that he's realized that he has a daughter. So now it's not just the town, not just Josie, not just his dad, but now he has a daughter. And watch how the Holy Spirit uses her as an agent of healing. She's in a great position to be used because she doesn't have all these charged memories. For him, it's like this country singer that her mom listens to sometime, and she's meeting him just as an equal. And that's really what the Holy Spirit wants us to do with everyone. But she's going to be like a way shower for us in her extensions of love and openness. Okay, well, you can see how the Spirit has to bring around these miracles, and then these deep, dark, you might say tragic memories just keep resurfacing and resurfacing, and it's really all just interpretation. That's where the doubt comes in, the self-doubt, the self-criticism, the the unworthiness. That's one of our themes. It just comes up like in waves. And then as you keep moving along, there's events that are, you might say, projections or reminders of this deeper sense of hurt and guilt. So, yeah, Liam had that experience where he was having flashbacks of his mother in the hospital room when she was dying, and his feelings of helplessness and powerlessness, and those are all really just roots of this feeling of unworthiness, this dark feeling of unworthiness. And then all the feelings come of not being worthy enough, not being enough. And then that's where all kinds of things can seem to play out, where the mind is just acting out distractions or trying to avoid or cover over a lot of these dark, intense feelings. So this is really the key. This is like the footprints in the sand story where there's only one footprint there, and Jesus says, I had to carry you during these moments, because this is when the darkness is just coming up for the healing. So we're going to see, he's got a scene coming up here in this restaurant bar where it's still these, Jesus calls them shadow figures from the past. These are just the doubt thoughts that are coming from the ego, and this is where it takes such faith to hang in there with the healing in the face of these doubt thoughts, because they're all self-criticisms and they're all judgments of the self, but they're all egoic. And Jesus keeps working with us, keeping the faith of helping to carry us past these thoughts altogether, so we can free our mind of these emotions and these thoughts that really aren't our real thoughts, but as long as we stay identified with the ego, we stay identified with being the thinker of these thoughts. And that's not the truth either. So it's like a sorting out, like in the Bible there's all those parables of sorting out the wheat from the chaff, the seed of truth, the seed of love from the weed, or from the thistle, from that which is not the seed of God. So we're about ready to move into this scene where it's Josie's brother that's going to seemingly play out these shadow thoughts of the past, and then that's the time for faith, because it's oftentimes very much of a temptation to react to the shadow thoughts and the shadow figures. But that just sends the mind back into the dark feelings. And so this is a good teaching movie for showing this temptation and really pointing out how strong it is to have the faith. So we'll play the scene here. Beautiful, beautiful. It was so symbolic at the end when he spoke up what he had to say on his answering the voicemail that he was listening to for 8 years. So there's the communication. We always talk about transparency, communication, say what's on your heart. He spoke it up, and then when she came back with that phone, she had a few questions for him. There, she got to really question, did you really carry that phone with you and listen to that message, every day? Yeah. And you promised that you'll never leave this town without Billy and I. So, it always comes down to the hurt and the pain have to pass through. It has to kind of like your heart has to crack wide open. But then the real transparency is the love. It's the love that's always been there. It's the love that's so deep even in that last song, home, that song of home, that's very symbolic as well. That's what we're here for, is to not hide and protect these dark beliefs and these dark thoughts, but we're here to crack open and to expose and to not protect the darkness. And once we don't protect it, then that's when we start to really get closer and closer to that holy instant. That is our moment of release, our moment of healing, our moment of remembering, reclaiming that innocence. And I love these movies that show the full circle that everyone has to go through to crack open, to come to this amazing, profound healing. So what a beautiful emotion. It's to let the love finally come through and to do whatever it takes to be willing. And this movie really showed us that, took us on a ride, emotional ride of cracking open to come back to that love that's always been there. And I think it's quite interesting that it's in these relationships where the darkness gets projected to the body and gets projected to the people, but that's also why it's such a powerful pathway of healing, because of the possibility of reinterpreting all those scenes and scenarios, because of the possibility and really the inevitability of having that healing interpretation come through. And this movie, it took us all the way through, even to the point where he left again the second time, and then again had to face those thoughts of fear of loss, of fear of commitment, of finally him being able to say, before I loved you, I loved my mother so much, and then I couldn't bear to go through that loss again. And so he says, so I ran. And that's very much like this whole time-space scenario. It's like trying to run away from the light. It's trying to run away from the darkness and get all caught up in the dust and the images, where even in The Lion King, when Uncle Scar had told Simba, you killed your father, now run. And how Simba left the Pride Land to go away to try to deal with the pain. But even when he went off and to his Hakuna Matata, his singing and eating his bugs and enjoying what he called Hakuna Matata, that's almost like the affirmations and the going for the positive things of the world. I don't know if eating bugs that's the best metaphor for that, but he was happy. He had his Pumbaa and the other one, Timon, the warthog and the little creature that they were trying to encourage him to make the best of it. And that's so much what we face in this world, where it's like trying to make the best of it with the compromises of the world, with trying to find something in the world that can act as a substitute, or to placate, or to distract away, or to keep the mind numb from the pain, or all these different things. We're getting wise to the ego's tricks, and now we're allowing ourselves to feel the feelings and to fully feel the feelings and fully empty our minds out so that we can be transparent and and we can be translucent in the light. We can let the light shine through us and as us. So what a great movie. We always have something new, and now even some country western twang to take us home. We go from what was the movie? The Lego movie to the country twang. I mean, we really, Holy Spirit's pulling all the stops out to get the roto-rooter and clear out our unconscious mind. But that's pretty strong. So I would love to hear what experiences you went through, or if you have any questions or have anything that this triggered that you're going through in your life right now that this movie acted as a trigger for, and you would like to just kind of let it up for healing. And also if you had any insights, because I know a lot of times I see some of you taking notes because you write down those insights as you go through these movies. You got the evidence. So yeah, we'd love to hear those things too. So Eric, maybe you can check and see if people have their hands up or wave, and we'll dive in.
Sounds good. We've got a couple hands up, and yeah, anyone else, feel free to raise your digital hand if you'd like to share. I'm going to go to Robert first there at the monastery. Go ahead, Robert.
Hi, David.
Hi, Robert.
Greetings from the monastery. Yeah, this is not one of those movies that just has it all. I mean, it's just I took some notes, and the whole self-concept deal, where he was trying to pursue all these worldly fantasies, and he had lived the enchanted life according to the world, and he just felt he was like a hollow man. It just wasn't fulfilling him. He was just getting lost in the drugs and the alcohol, and he was listening to that message every day, and this isn't it. And then it's really just showing that this whole ego journey that we're on, I mean, it gets us nowhere. It's like a big loop. It just keeps looping. And it's really how just the forgiveness came into it when he came back home. And yeah, he got a little pushback, but people opened up their heart and they were just really forgiving to him. And especially Josie. I mean, she was just such a kind of like a symbol of the Holy Spirit. I mean, just welcoming back in and just rebuilding his life. And that scene in the hospital with his mother got me again. That just brought me back to my own story. But and that scene in the bar where I guess Josie's brother was, making him feel guilty, putting him on that guilt trip, and then he left again. It just reminded me of how, guilt just ruins everything. I mean, it's like all we have to do is just, accept, be carried by Jesus. Jesus wants to carry us anyway. All we have to do is just accept the invitation, and we just get bogged down in all this seriousness and this guilt. And it's just, it's just like it ruins everything. I mean, he was doing something. He was making amends, and he was being fulfilled and fulfilling Josie. And then the guilt comes along, and I got to run back to that. I'm no good of anything. All this blah blah blah. And it's great that it ended the way that it did, though. It was really. I really liked the ending, how Billy was on stage with him singing and they were back together again. And I mean, the symbology is really deep in this movie, and I feel that it has it all, and I want to thank you for showing it.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, that when you were talking, that reminded me too, after Josie confirmed those two things, did you really listen to that message every night for the last 8 years, and are you really never going to leave here without Billy and I, when he confirmed that, then she did say, I just have one thing to say, welcome home. And that, that's really like, it's interesting, of all the parables that Jesus told, I think the one that he seemed to tell the most and the one that seemed to be his favorite parable was the Prodigal Son parable, where the one son leaves and he takes his inheritance and he spends, they said, he blows his whole inheritance in riotous living. But when he goes back, that's what the father does too. He welcomes him home. He says, he puts sandals on his feet and robe around him, and he says, we will kill the fatted calf and we will have a party, we will have a celebration. And so I think that was very much the same feeling, like you said, as like a Holy Spirit character with Josie, because she, in the end, she had to let go, which is what his father was preaching his sermon that week, that 1 week, where he said, it should be easy to forgive, but it seems like it's the hardest thing. But that genuine welcome, like totally letting go of the past, letting go of the bygones of him seeming to leave and seeming to leave again. That's really where the forgiveness is. And it does remind me how Jesus teaches us in the Course. He says forgiveness is always a gift to yourself. Because I think so much people have such a connotation around the forgiveness word about forgiving the other. And when we can bring it all the way back and start to realize, oh my gosh, it was a tiny mad idea, it was a crazy idea, it's a crazy belief, and as Jesus says, the secret of salvation is but this: you're doing this to yourself. Wow, what a realization. As soon as we can start to see that we've been doing this to ourselves, then that's the key that turns the whole latch right there. Because we can just simply stop. And Jesus even says, even if you're on your deathbed, you could simply rise up and say, I have no need for this at all. Even on your deathbed, you can still have a change of heart. You can still have a change of mind. You can still forgive. And he says, and there have been those that have, he said, rose up, changed their mind and rose up to teach it right out of their deathbed. And I think Mary Baker Eddy was one of those where she was basically pronounced as dying by her doctor after she'd fallen on the snow and had all these internal injuries and seeming internal bleeding, and then the doctor was out telling her friends that she was a goner. When she reached over with all her strength, she got her Bible, she read that famous parable of the paralytic who has such faith to be lowered down from the tile, as they took the tiles off the roof in front of Jesus, and then he was able to rise up off the stretcher. And that ended the whole teaching session. That was the point, right there. The faith to accept the healing in the presence of the Christ, and that's really what we're all faced with, is just to have the faith to accept the healing in the presence of the Christ, in the presence of the light and the truth. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, Josie was, when she said, welcome home, that was a key point, that you could just feel your heart burst open, like, okay, if she can do it, then we all can do it. Yeah, thank you, Robert. It was beautiful. Sweet.
Okay, thank you, Robert. I'm going to go to, where is it? Mexico co-living next. Go ahead and unmute yourself there.
Okay. Am I unmuted?
No, you're
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was really powerful for me too. I just watching that movie, I noticed it was, at the beginning, it felt kind of like I don't feel anything. Like, I don't relate to this, da-da-da-da-da. But then at some point, it's like all the memories started coming back in my life, and it felt like it was me. It was my life playing on the screen. In the sense, like that feeling of running away because you can't deal with something and you don't know how to reconcile it in your mind. And so when he was like explaining that to his dad and to Josie, and like it just put me in touch with my relationship, with my mom and those relationships, and how just like so much feeling that got pushed away with that. Yeah. And then, that's just the habit in the mind, and then the denial over that, and being in so much pain and not, when his dad was saying, like, I tried to tell you, but what could I do? Like, I had similar conversations with my mom where she would say I had no options, because whatever, to not go into the specifics, but the, early 20s where I just literally ran away from a family and wouldn't reach out to them or talk to them. Yeah. Yeah. And like how we make these decisions all the time and don't know why really that we're making them consciously. We don't know the reasoning behind it. It's just something that plays out. And now it just cried right through the last part of that movie where everything felt so perfect in the last scenes where it was like, welcome home. And nobody wanted him to, I don't have the words right now, but very well. I feel a little bit inarticulate, but I just wanted to express the, the feeling of confusion and the hurt and the anger and not being able to get in touch with it, and then allowing it up with this movie was very powerful, and it's very powerful. So that I think that sums it up. I don't know, but just to kind of reiterate what you were saying, just allowing up the pain and not projecting it on the screen anymore. So.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Isn't it great that we have movies like this? If this is what it takes for us to get in touch with the denial, if this is what it takes for us to reverse the denial, then wow, what a plan! What a glorious plan, Like you were saying at the beginning of the movie, it's like, nothing, I don't feel anything. And it's like the ego's like, we got this solid wall of denial going, and then Holy Spirit's like, boom! And then all these emotions and how we welcome them. We like it when people emote and get in touch with things that have been pushed away and buried and denied and repressed, and because it's a herald of healing. It's the harbinger of this huge healing in our mind, and so it's great that we can be here with each other and in this kind of context. And this is really an answer to a prayer, because deep down this is our prayer. We want we don't want to hide anymore. We don't want to run anymore. We don't want to deny anymore. And we simply had convinced ourselves that we were too far gone. Like he said in the movie a couple times, like he told his dad, I just was running, I got lost. He told Billy, little Billy, he got lost. He told his dad he got lost, and yet it's just, even with all that, to the extent that we may have pushed away or ran away or denied, it's still, we always are given the opportunity to heal. So beautiful. Thank you for expressing, and it's our victory. Beautiful. Beautiful. Sweet.
Okay, next we have Esther. Go ahead, Esther.
Thank you so much. Wow. Initially, my reaction was the same as Jessica's, I'm not feeling this. And then I remembered that my father had a phone message that was left in the system almost 10 years after his passing. And I was able to put it on a telephone, one of those old phones like he had. And I kept it, and for the longest time I used to listen to it almost, whenever I needed the inspiration, and I could relate to that. But one of the things that I've been working on is the idea that when I'm experiencing hypothetical thinking, we brought it up like this, that the perceived is not perceiving, but it thinks that it's perceiving, meaning that there's no me. And I was having to take my mom to the doctor's today, but it was yesterday. I was planning and hypothetically thinking and really getting upset and worked up. And when Alan kept going over this and over again in different ways of saying it in my mind, I started to really lighten up. And I was able to sleep, which is a big issue for me sometimes when I'm stressed. Like during the retreats that we have, that Saturday into Sunday, or the Friday into Saturday, I'm just like, can't sleep. I'm doing the Mighty Networks, inputs, and inspirations, and at 4 a.m, or writing you an email. And, but just the idea that the perceived thinks that it's perceiving. Do you know what I'm saying? That you think that the perceiving is perceiving, and it's just so wild. And then the this lesson for today was I think God is the mind in which I think, and I was being with my mom today with the doctor's office, and I was just sitting in the doctor's office and I was just praying. I was just like, let me remember what my purpose is here. And that is to remember the forgiveness lesson. And I was just grateful and just feeling that the certainty of God is in me. And that's what I really was my whole day was about. And I was able to communicate to my mom how grateful I was. She actually read half of the will today, and it was very hard for her, but she did it. And she said her vision's poor and everything. And I just said, I'm really grateful that you're cooperating with me so beautifully. And I hope that helps with encouragement. And just that when the feeling that you're doing this all yourself, it, like when she was in a coma and I was guided to do things on her body and stuff, and massage her feet and so on, I never really felt alone. I was always praying and always feeling guided. And that's all I've ever wanted, was not to feel alone. And the love that Liam came to know, you got to see that he was no longer feeling that aloneness.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so beautiful. The whole thing just orchestrated. I was marveling too that where he had seemed to not show up for the wedding at the beginning of the movie, then when he took her out on that date to New Orleans, I could just feel how the Spirit just reconfigures and reconfigures, and the prayer is answered, in the reinterpretation, and I really could feel that. Reminds me a little bit of that Vanessa Williams song, "Just when I thought my chance had passed, you go and save the best for last." And that song is so powerful because it's like the Spirit loves us so much, and we're just slowly reconfiguring, taking us closer to the light. It's hard to deny that the symbols are so strong, but then the best is the last. The best is always saved for last. So thank you for sharing that, because it feels like that is great. Just to know that you're in prayer and that you don't feel alone gives you the strength to know you have the faith to go through anything. You have the connection now, and that's really the whole purpose of the Course, is just to give us that connection back in our mind, that prayer link. So thank you. Thank you, Esther.
Okay, I'm going to go to Mitha next. Go ahead, Mitha.
Hello. It's good to see you, Eric, and if I could say hello to David.
Hi. Hi, Mitha.
You said about sharing insights, and it's just going to be a repeat, but something about the sharing from Eric and from you over the weekend that went and then is followed up tonight that has gone so much deeper for me is the whole thing about that, the guilt, the feeling that something's wrong, the not being enough, that all of that doesn't come from anything on the screen, that all of that is the experience coming off of that private minds, private thoughts, that sense of separation. And somehow through all this, it's gone in so much deeper, and I just have realized how much I've kept trying to fix it out on the screen, trying to heal, and almost like a belief that I had to heal it there first before I could feel the Spirit, before I could have my heart open, and I've had that backwards. And I just want to share so much. Thank you all, both you and Eric, for that gift. It just feels very different. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mitha. Yeah, I remember when you were down here in Mexico for a while, but you went through some heavy stuff and then came back, and your face is so lit up from the times when you hung in there, some of the early movies, like you were hanging on the ropes, and now you're just lifted up, like, it's all landing. So it's beautiful to see you witness to that for all of us. Thank you.
Through the movies. I was all set to go to Mexico, but I knew that I had doubts about it, and my passport disappeared. It just went away. So I didn't go to Mexico, and then Kirsten sang about that she was going to do something at the monastery. I thought, maybe that's where I'm supposed to. That's the next step. And then I fell and broke my arm, and so now I'm home. And it's like, so it's like, no, it's just being here through the movies and through the weekends that is just very, very gently just going deeper and deeper and deeper. So thank you.
Thank you, Mitha. That's fantastic. It all works together for good. Yeah. Missing passports, broken arms, and the movies. Take us to the movies. Take us home. That's so good.
Thank you, Mitha. Thank you so much. I'll go to Tina next. Go ahead, Tina.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. It's actually pronounced Tina.
Tina.
Yeah. That's okay. I'll answer to whatever, though. It's fine. I didn't want to miss the timing to make that correction. Anyway, I've been here for every single movie since the beginning, and I've not said a word, which, I want to see you. Let me pin you. Can you say something? I'll pin you.
Yeah, here I am.
All right. So can I pin you? It's too late. I missed the timing for that. Anyway, I've been here for every single movie, and I've not said a word, and that's not so strange, except I always talk. I'm talking all the time. So it's just something, it's feeling like a fraud, like I kind of snuck in here with you guys through this movie thing, and I've been kind of hiding out. So, and every time I use the excuse, everyone says really insightful things, so I don't really need to say anything. My questions are already answered by someone else. And I was not going to say anything again today. I made my mind I wasn't going to say anything again. And then it was confirmed when I think her name is Jessica started talking about how she felt. And I was like, oh, cool. I don't have to say a word because that's exactly how I felt. I felt like, oh, country and Western music, and I don't really like this. And I'm not going to be into this. And the whole, I was digging it, but I kept complaining, like trying to resist it. And it really was, your commentary, and I was falling into it. And there was this like this block on my heart that I just wasn't going to let anything in until, when she said, welcome home, I had the exact same reaction. I had to keep turning my camera off because I was just a mess over here. Like, all of this is coming up. And there's nothing, really specific that I can relate to myself. It's just something just really, really deep that just hit. And I just said, I just can't. I just can't not just say that I got hit. I guess that's what I just got hit, and something just cracked. And I just want to just expose that, and if I can add anything, just super grateful. And also sorry that I haven't said that earlier. So a little guilt at the end, I guess.
Well, I remember, Tina, I remember too from what you wrote in and for the Transparency Weekend, you said, for years, for some time it's been bring it on, Holy Spirit, but then you shifted to finish it, like from our movie, The Fountain. And so to me, this is our first movie gathering after that Transparency Weekend, and that was the prayer of your heart, which was to finish it. And in order to finish it, it just all has to crack wide open. So it's beautiful that it came just when you prayed for it. You didn't ask for it before, and then you said finish it, and now it's coming just what you needed. Yeah, just like with Jessica. So it's great.
Is that what's happening? Because I'm like, why am I doing all this? I mean, I'm a pretty expressive person anyway, but I'm like, why right now? And so, is that it?
Yeah, it's an answer to prayer.
All right, cool.
It's an answer to prayer.
Then bring some more on. I'll take it.
That's right.
Finish it. Yeah, I don't mind crying. I don't mind all of this, whatever. Take it.
Oh,
thank you.
Sweet.
Yes. Thank you.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's me shooting hearts at you.
Oh, sweet. Oh, thank you.
Okay, beautiful. I'm going to go to Hazel next. Go ahead, Hazel.
Hi there. Hi, Eric and David. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Hazel.
So I just kind of can really relate to what's been shared so far. I just kind of wanted to join the party. And I too have been watching the movies for, a while now, and I've kind of been holding back and you could really relate to, what Tina just expressed and Jessica as well. And I guess I sort of, the ontological guilt has really been hitting me with that kind of long, deep separation from spirit, and I've just really been taking a look at that, and as well, this movie has touched on that for me quite deeply. I went through that too, leaving home in my 20s, and just couldn't wait to get the hell out of there, just because it was so painful to be in that, and seemingly dysfunction, and then going back kept reigniting those feelings. And so I sort of felt like I had worked through a lot of that, but I had, it just keeps coming up deeper and deeper and deeper. This, with Jessica's share, I just, I was just sobbing along with her. And I guess that's my self-righteousness, my self-righteous indignation going, well, I've got that all handled, and really I don't. And so I just want to expose that more. And also, it seems, with this retreat on the weekend, no private thoughts and no people pleasing. It's just full transparency is like how I'm still trying to wrap my head around, well, how transparent can I really be, and with who is it really safe to be transparent with, because not everybody can ride it. And so I'm grateful for these retreats, because there's the mighty companions and the like-mindedness, and I'm just always afraid to go really deep with my partner, because it feels like I get a lot of resistance and non-compassionate feedback, and so I guess with this one, I'm processing along with the during the movie, and I've also been following Tina Spalding's 40-day Jesus, 40 days and 40 nights of Jesus. It started yesterday, where we're being encouraged to not hide, and we're being encouraged to not isolate, and we're being encouraged to really connect and extend and share our love with others, because what that does is it just, nothing is given away. It's all received, and so that's been pretty powerful. But I think in my past relationship, I was married for over 20 years, and I don't think I've completely grieved the loss of that relationship. And so, it comes up still as a block in my current relationship that I've been in for probably 10 years. I haven't completely let that previous one go. There was just such a deep love there, and it's just a question, what is the difference between a special relationship and a holy relationship? It's like, I don't even know. And, how much can I just really expose without feeling like I'm going to get ridiculed or misunderstood. I guess that's my biggest fear. It's hard for us to really get past all of the doubt and the ontological guilt to really be present with the holy instant. Yeah, so I just needed to get that off my chest. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I actually heard today about Tina Spalding's messages from Jesus, just morning and night, 40 days, morning and night, and I did hear that that's what the first couple days were about, was really encouraging to bring it out with your fellow man in all the small little ways. Don't miss a little opportunity. So it's beautiful that you heard the message, and then here you are with all of us, and then Jessica being so transparent, which was like an allowance for you to sob and to let those deep emotions up. So, and just like Tina was just sharing, it's a breakthrough. It's an answer to prayer, where you just are praying for somehow for it to happen, and then here we are in this context where you feel safe enough and you feel like you can do it. So I'm glad that you did take this opportunity, because that's what we're here for. And I'm so glad that you're with us, and that we all can be here for you as you heal. And you just hit it all just right on the head, that there's these deep hurts that we've carried with us. It could be from an event in our life or a past relationship or something, and we don't even have it in awareness, but we can still feel the effects of it, that ontological guilt. So I'm glad you took this opportunity tonight with all of us. Yeah, I send you're in our prayers for healing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Hazel. And I'll go to Stephen next. Go ahead, Stephen.
All right. Eric, first of all, thank you. Thank you for the weekend and for the intro Friday and the movie from Saturday's movie. That was fantastic. I think this movie's like a follow-up for As It Is in Heaven. And I have to say, Eric, man, you almost got me in trouble because I got a haircut yesterday, and I was telling the stylist your story and how you had, zipped off some hair and just thought, well, hell, just go with it. And what does it matter? And so I was telling her, I said, what would it look like with a 2 or a 4 without it? And I said, well, no, I'm not quite ready to go all in yet. I'm getting there. She was playful, and she said, oh, it looks nice. Just keep it like it is. And I said, okay. But I have to tell you, it was just fantastic. Then I'm getting there. It's like one step at a time, slowly. But tonight, man, this movie was good from a lot of ways, because, David, you're set up, too, about the roles, the ego's ideals. And I had a friend send me a picture, a high school buddy, send a picture back in the day of college and high school, and there were a few pictures of us, and man, we were just rebels and having fun, long hair, going to concerts, that whole story. And I could just see this beautiful young man with the full head of hair and smiling and cracking up and doing all kinds of goofy things, and then somehow Holy Spirit just used that to show me all the roles of there's the college rebel, there's the mountain man, there's the Mormon missionary, there's the family guy, there's the lawyer, there's the judge, there's the Gnostic traveler, there's all these roles. And I could really see all along the way there was the ideal, the ego's ideal for all these roles, and the sadness and the guilt and the shame and the not enough and the unworthiness of all of that, and the unrequited love, looking, searching, seeking, discovering slowly. But through all of it, I could see the goofy, not taking anything serious, rebel, smiling, playful character like that. There was the content, and it just helped me to come present and just say, that's the content. Don't worry about the form. That's the content. So I thought tonight that illustration was great. And I have to, before I get to a couple points about the movie I picked up on, was I have to show you my finish it ring. So after at the end of the fountain, I was just so taken by that. I'd seen that movie several times, and I just thought, I love this. I love all the metaphors and the symbols and the ring and the closing and the finish it. So I thought, I'm gonna play with a wedding ring. I've never taken the other ones I had seriously. So I thought, well, maybe I'll take this one seriously as a symbol of my deeper commitment to love and to truth. The relationship with the Holy Spirit and the voice for God inside my mind. And I've just been having fun with it. My kids came over for hot dogs at Don Don's with the grandkids. And my son noticed the ring. He said, Dad, you have something you want to share with us? I said, oh, yeah, she'll be here in a half hour. So they know their dad's kind of fun with that, but I was playful with that. But what I caught from the movie tonight, a couple things that really struck me was the voicemail. The 8-year voicemail that he carried around in his pocket, and how he listened to it every day. And I thought, boy, if you listen to that message, that's the atonement. That's the voice for God. It's the voice for the Holy Spirit. So it's an 8-year voicemail that he listened to every day. And I thought that voice is always in her mind saying this. And she says, I will always love you, Liam. You are the one for me. You will always have my heart forever. And I thought, wow, isn't that a great message to carry around in whatever symbol we can find or latch onto to help us get in touch with that, to feel that, and to the content. And here's that nothing so blinding as perception of form. And I've just been seeing the parable of Stephen and all the forms and the specialness and letting go of the specialness and just letting it go, forgiving it, releasing it, and coming more clear, getting that clarity and that hit and that feeling and feeling that you're home, welcome home, I love you, and let all that stuff come up. I thought another scene was interesting for me was when he's sitting outside the church and he's listening in, and he's just not willing to go all the way into the mind. He's going to hang out, but he's still listening. But he knows, man, there's something magic or miraculous going on there inside the church. But he's not quite ready to commit fully to going in because of all that darkness, that guilt, that shame that needs to be flushed up. So I just loved it. There was so much more. I was taking notes. Oh yeah, you. I'll never be the same without you and Billy by my side. I love that because those are like symbols for the Holy Spirit in my mind. It's like, no, I'll never be the same without you by my side. So that's the holy relationship. That's to finish it. And I even have a note written here by my, I have an envelope here with, I have it titled Exit, which is just, here's the will, here's what you do with the body and all these things that, okay, take care of it. But I wrote this note, finish it. To just put it on top of that pile and just say, just finish that story. Let it go, put it all together, let all of this go, and just turn it all over, even to double down. So it's like my doubling down, if you will. I thought I'd go for the ring. It was a lot more expensive than the haircut, but I thought, well, I'll just take it one step at a time and I'll go for the wedding band. But thank you, David. Thank you for everything. And everything.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Stephen. It reminds me too how we just have those moments that are so powerful. Like I'm thinking of when his father basically said, I tried to reach you, I tried what Jessica was sharing, that scene. And then the very next day was Sunday morning. The father goes out and he preaches this sermon and looks at everybody and say, we've always forgiven inside this church and we need to forgive the hurts, and he came right back with the forgiveness talk, and then intuitively he felt, I think, Liam outside on the steps outside the church, because he zoomed, the minister, his father, zoomed down the aisle to just say to his son, thanks for coming, and to kind of pull him back to the greeting line so all these people could filled up with this beautiful message of forgiveness, could put it into immediate action. I mean, I could just see how the Spirit was moving the characters from, first he had to let all that up, his own frustrations when his son came off the bike and screamed at him, "Why didn't you tell me I had a daughter?" He let up his own frustrations. Then he comes right back, though, in his role, letting the Holy Spirit use the minister role to really give a heartfelt forgiveness talk, and then zooming down that aisle before anybody could even fill it up, because he knew they all were going to be going out, and I think he was going out there to pull Liam there so he could stand right beside him, and then those people hugging him, and it's just amazing how it works.
Comment real quickly on that. I love too the shift, that feeling that shifted as he's sitting there listening, and it is caught. He's stuck in the guilt and the shame and just all that stuff stirring up, listening. But then as his father came out and pulled him next to him as he's greeting, and when he shifted into greeting mode, and he was more in the extension then. I could just feel the shift of when I'm in my seeking but not finding, believing in the lie, form-focused, horizontal, wandering, detours into the desert. And then when I shift, when that shift, that vertical idea comes in, and then it's about the giving. It's really about the extending. And I could just feel that in that scene where he's with all the people then. And I loved that. I loved how that felt.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Stephen. Beautiful.
Okay, and this is our last hand at the moment. It's Susan Jameson. Go ahead, Susan.
Hey. Hi, David. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Susan.
Hello. So, I may be crying along with everybody. First of all, thank you so much. Oh, I can't see you.
Hi there. Can you see me
there
now?
You are again. Yes, thank you. We are so blessed to have you in our midst for these movie nights, for these retreats. I don't know how to thank you enough. So if I don't say it, and I need to say it now, how blessed we are. And there's so many prayers being answered tonight. I can tell you that my heart really cracked open too. And I think I saw this film with you a couple of years ago. And but it didn't affect me then as it did today. And I thought I've healed this over and over and over. But without going into a very long story, I too was in an arranged marriage when I was very young. And I had one daughter that I've talked about. And when I was when I was really young, I used to always feel that I couldn't be enough for God. That was on my mind, and my family didn't understand. Why is she, I always felt that I couldn't be enough for God. So I felt very fortunate when I found the course and I met a teacher, and I was really young. But, so I was married and I had my child, and my mother, Lil, died suddenly the year after. So, and we were so involved in the spiritual community and this work that I wrote down these lines from the movie. I love my mother so much. And I couldn't grieve my own mom. And I just feel that, even though I thought I've grieved her. So it's coming up, for more healing. Because a lot of people, family people said, you broke your mother's heart. They put that on me. That was the movie, because I left my mother for a spiritual community and I married someone who wasn't Jewish, and all of this. And she died of a broken heart. She had a heart attack. That's how it played out. So this movie really opened this up. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
And I feel that I've been projecting this hidden emotion onto my daughter. Yeah. Because my ex, who was in the arranged marriage, doesn't talk to me at all. You know, he said, you should just go to your spiritual... We haven't talked in years. And my daughter wishes she wasn't here. You know, she went to study the mind, so I've told you many times she has a PhD in psychology, but it hasn't helped. So maybe this deeper healing tonight, you know, I know it's not about the characters, but I know there's a healing for me.
Yeah.
So I thank Jessica too, and everyone else who expressed, because yeah, this really touched me. What else did he say? Yeah, my mom, before I met my teacher, before all this started happening, like he said, she was the love of my life. So that's what he said tonight in this movie. It was very, very, very beautiful for me.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll probably do a little more crying, but smiling too. Yeah. I'm really grateful. Then I just want to mention quickly, I've been talking with you about you to some people a lot. And actually this one woman, Ying, who owns this property in Lenox, she sent me the same video, that 40 days thing, and I haven't watched it yet. And David, who introduced me to, who reminded me of you a few years ago, also sent it. So this morning, early this morning, I got a text. Just have to read you the first line. It says, Susan, period. God came to help you start this group. Please get me a time and date for this week to gather. So I don't know if anything's going to happen there. I actually shared this property at one point with Kirsten a few months ago, but I've kind of let it go because I'm not attached to it. But she's introduced me to some people that really want to speak with you. So I'll just write you about it.
Okay.
Because I'm just talking about David. So, yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm so happy you had such a deep experience, because this is fantastic. You know, it's like we never know what movie or what night it's going to do it, but it's so great when you feel some of these deep chambers of things that you hadn't even thought about for a while just cracking wide open. You can start to see the connections. The dots are getting connected. So I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Such healing. Everybody full heart and open up, and then we're wrapping things up. So, well, thank you so much for all your sharing everything and joining us in the movie, and God bless you, and happy healing to everyone. And I know our hearts are flung wide open, and we'll see you again next Wednesday. Thank you.